Chapter 7. Developing People, Not Managing Tasks. Most leaders are busy. Their calendars are full. Their days are packed with meetings, decisions, approvals, and interruptions. They move from issue to issue, solving problems, answering questions, keeping things moving. From the outside, it looks like leadership. From the inside, it feels like carrying everything. For a long time, I believed that busyness was proof of effectiveness. If I was involved, things moved. If I stepped away, they slowed. They felt like responsibility. It felt like leadership. It wasn't. It was dependence. Managing tasks creates activity. Developing people creates capacity. The difference isn't obvious at first, especially in fast moving environments where results matter and time feels scarce. Managing tasks produce immediate feedback. Problems get fixed, decisions get made. The day ends with satisfaction of things crossed off a list. Developing people doesn't offer that same immediate reward. It takes time. It requires patience. It often feels inefficient compared to just doing the work yourself. And under pressure, inefficiency feels irresponsible. So leaders default to what feels productive. They manage tasks. I started noticing a pattern that was hard to ignore. People were capable, smart, experienced, and yet they were constantly checking in with me, asking for confirmation, seeking approval, waiting for a direction. I told myself it was because they respected my judgment. What I eventually realized was harder to admit. They didn't need me to manage the work. They had learned to rely on me to think for them. That wasn't respect. It was a leadership gap that I had created. Task management feels helpful because it removes friction. A leader answers a question instead of asking one back. They jump in to save time. They take over when something isn't done exactly the way they would do it. Each intervention feels small. Each makes sense. But those small moments compound. Over time, people stop stretching. They stop making decisions without permission. They stop bringing ideas forward because they assume the leader already has an answer or will replace it anyway. The leader becomes indispensable. And that's the problem. Leaders who manage tasks become the ceiling for their teams. Everything rises to their level, but never beyond it. At first, that feels empowering. The leader is needed, central, involved. But eventually, it becomes exhausting. Growth slows. The leader works harder while the organization moves faster. That's when many leaders realize they're busy, but not effective. Developing people requires a different posture. Instead of asking what needs to be done, leaders begin asking who needs to grow. Instead of solving the problem, they coach through it. Instead of giving the answer, they ask questions that force the thinking. Instead of rescuing, they allow struggle while staying present. That shift is uncomfortable. Watching someone work through an issue more slowly than you would is hard. Allowing someone to make a decision you might not fully agree with feels risky. Letting go of control under pressure feels counterintuitive. But that discomfort is the cost of development. I had to learn that effectiveness as a leader wasn't measured by how many problems I solved personally, but by how many problems could be solved without me. That realization changed how I showed up. When someone came to me with a question, I stopped answering immediately. I asked what they thought. I asked what options they saw. I asked the outcome they were trying to protect. Sometimes I gave direction, but far less often than before. At first, it felt slower. Then something shifted. People started thinking out loud instead of asking for permission. They brought solutions instead of problems. They took ownership without being prompted. The work didn't just get done, it got better. Developing people doesn't mean abandoning standards, it means raising them. When leaders invest in development, expectations become clearer, not looser. People understand what good looks like and feel trusted to pursue it. Accountability becomes shared, pride replaces pressure. Managing tasks keeps leaders busy. Developing people makes leaders scalable. One of the most subtle traps leaders fall into is mistaking helpfulness for leadership. Being helpful feels good. It's immediate. It's visible. People thank you for it. But constant helpfulness can quietly rob others of the opportunity to grow. Leadership isn't about being needed. Leadership is about making others capable. The distinction is uncomfortable for leaders who have built their identity around competence and reliability. Letting go of that identity feels like a loss. In reality, it's progress. Development also requires patience with imperfection. People won't do things exactly the way you would. They'll make mistakes. They'll take longer. They'll sometimes get it wrong. The temptation to step in and correct is strong, especially under pressure. But growth doesn't happen without room to fail. The role of a leader isn't to eliminate mistakes. It's to create an environment where mistakes lead to learning instead of fear. I learned that when leaders manage tasks, they build followers. When leaders develop people, they build leaders. The difference shows up over time in resilience, adaptability, and performance. Teams led by developers don't collapse when leadership steps away. They adjust, they think, they lead from where they are. That's real strength. Developing people also changes the leader's experience. The work becomes less frantic, decisions are shared, pressure is distributed. The leader moves from being the engine to being the architect. That shift doesn't make leadership easier, it makes it sustainable. Many leaders don't realize they're stuck managing tasks until they're exhausted. They feel indispensable but not drained, needed but not overwhelmed, busy but ineffective. That tension is a signal. It's not telling you to work harder, it's telling you to lead differently. Pressure will always tempt leaders to revert to task management. It feels efficient, it feels safe, it feels responsible. But leaders who are built for pressure resist that temptation. They invest in people when it would be faster to do it themselves. They understand that capacity is built before it's needed, not in the middle of a crisis. Developing people isn't a luxury, it's preparation. In the next chapter, we'll look at how leaders turn this development into something sustainable by building systems that support people instead of replacing them. Because leadership that only works when you are present isn't leadership at all, it's dependency. And dependency collapses under pressure. That concludes this episode of Built for Pressure. Built for Pressure is a copyrighted work by Richard Levene, all rights reserved. This content may not be reproduced, distributed, or repurposed without permission. If this episode resonated, you can find the full framework at richardlevene.com.